There's a liquid you can make at home for under $2 that turns ordinary sand into a block of artificial stone, harder than most concrete you have ever walked on. Not mixed into cement, not poured into a mold with industrial compounds. Plain sand from a riverbank or a $3 hardware store bag, combined with two things sitting in most kitchens right now. Within hours, the grains fuse into a dense, load-bearing mass that resists heat, resists moisture, and resists time. Ancient builders figured this out before Rome was an empire. Alchemists documented the chemistry in the 1500s and published the results in 1627. And the cement industry, which generates over $400 billion a year by selling you limestone powder that crumbles in acid rain and fails in earthquakes, has quietly made sure chemistry class never mentions it. What cannot be patented cannot be monopolized, and what cannot be monopolized cannot be used to build a $400 billion cartel. In 1627, Francis Bacon published Silva Silvarum, the collection of 1,000 experiments that became the foundational text of the scientific revolution, and the chemistry it documented had already been observed for over a century. Sand, combined with the right alkaline substance and sufficient heat, dissolves into a viscous liquid that, when exposed to acid, solidifies into a glassy, stone-hard mass. The alchemist called it liquor silicium. Modern chemistry calls it water glass, sodium silicate or potassium silicate, depending on the alkali used. The acid that triggers the final hardening has been in every kitchen since people first fermented grain. Vinegar, white distilled, $2 at any grocery store. Joseph Davidovits, a material scientist, spent decades analyzing the limestone blocks of the Egyptian pyramids at Giza. The blocks are not cut stone. Chemical analysis shows them to be a geopolymer, a synthetic stone formed by combining a mineral slurry with an alkaline binder, producing a three-dimensional aluminosilicate network indistinguishable from natural limestone. The builders did not quarry 2 million stones and haul them up ramps. They mixed a paste, poured it into wooden forms on site, and let chemistry build the wall. Electron microscopy images of pyramid core samples show air bubbles trapped in the material, an unmistakable signature that cannot occur in quarried stone. The analysis was replicated by researchers at MIT and published in peer-reviewed materials science journals. This chemistry is 4,000 years old, buried not by time, but by an industry that could not survive the comparison. Sand is silicon dioxide, SiO2, one of the most chemically resistant compounds in nature, but it dissolves in concentrated alkaline solutions. Heated with potassium hydroxide, the silicon-oxygen bonds break and the silicon ions enter solution as water glass. Water glass is a thick, translucent liquid that reacts with acid to precipitate solid silica throughout whatever structure it has penetrated. Pour water glass over sand, apply vinegar, and the acetic acid drives silicon dioxide out of solution in a web that bonds every grain into a monolith. This is acid-set geopolymerization. It works at room temperature, in open air, with nothing beyond a bucket and a brush. Here's how to make your first block for under $5. Dissolve 2 to 3 cups of hardwood ash in 2 cups of water. Stir for 2 minutes, let the solids settle and filter the liquid through cloth. Simmer the filtered liquid at a low, steady heat for 30 to 45 minutes, reducing volume by roughly half. Let it cool, add clean, dry silica sand at 2 parts. Sand to 1 part, lie by volume, and stir continuously at a gentle simmer for 20 to 30 minutes until the mixture thickens and develops a faint amber tint. Strain and cool. You now have water glass. Mix dry sand with water glass at 3 parts to 1 until every grain is coated and the mixture resembles wet packing sand. Press this into any mold, a scrap lumber frame, a cardboard box, a plastic container, packing firmly to eliminate voids. Spray or brush white distilled vinegar liberally over every exposed surface. Let the first coat dry for 30 minutes, then apply a second coat, then a third. Leave the form undisturbed for 24 hours at room temperature, remove the mold, and allow another 24 to 48 hours of open-air cure. At 72 hours, you have artificial sandstone with compressive strength between 1,500 and 4,500 psi. For reference, the residential concrete minimum under building codes is 2,500 psi. A 10-inch by 10-inch by 4-inch block costs under $1 in materials. The global Portland cement market is worth over $400 billion annually. Portland cement requires heating limestone and clay at 1,450 degrees Celsius, produces between 5 and 8% of global carbon dioxide emissions, crumbles in contact with sulfuric acid, and develops microcracks that allow progressive water failure. As of 2024, ASTM C94 and ACI 318, the standards governing ready-mix concrete and structural design in this country, contain no provision for geopolymer or silicate-set alternatives. The mechanism of suppression is not a boardroom conspiracy, it is a building code. Those committees were dominated by Portland cement industry representatives who also fund the academic institutions that train the engineers who sit on them. A material that cuts embodied carbon by up to 80% still cannot be specified on a standard building permit without special variants. You do not burn the books, you write the building codes. You cannot patent silicon dioxide, potassium hydroxide, or acetic acid. You cannot patent acid-set geopolymerization, formally published in 1627 and documented for nearly 400 years since. The recipe belongs to anyone who reads it, and what cannot be owned cannot sustain the revenue stream a $400 billion industry requires. Remove that control, and the Portland cement industry becomes a commodity competing against something anyone can make from sand and fire. That is not a competition, it can win on merit, which is why the competition is never allowed to start. This method produces genuine structural stone, appropriate for off-grid foundations, retaining walls, garden paths, outdoor steps, fire pit surrounds, and emergency construction. It will not replace reinforced structural concrete in a high-rise. No DIY material should. But for any situation where no supply chain exists, this chemistry gives you load-bearing stone from sand, ash, and kitchen acid in under 2 hours. The material was never lost. The knowledge was never destroyed. It was left out of every document the industry controlled, and the industry controlled every document that mattered. That is the cleanest form of suppression that exists. Sand is everywhere. Fire is everywhere. Vinegar is $2. What they make together is permanent. If this opens something for you, subscribe and share it. The only thing that beats their budget is the number of people who already know.